And the next one is the green pink, so it's pinky green.
Yeah, it's not a nice logo. Thank you so very much. I really look forward. And we've been talking, Senator in particular, been telling me about all of your work.
We brag about you all the time.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, Miguel.
Welcome, Madam Vice President Harris.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary.
So happy to be here. So happy to see familiar faces, smiling faces, and I can tell you smiling behind the mask. I can tell what a special moment. We're going to have a moment for introduction in a second, but it's really important just to kind of set the stage. We're at such a critical point. Experiencing poverty. It's almost like a reset button. You know, in some of the most recent data, students who are persistently poor are 13% less likely to complete high school, and 43% less likely to complete college. In Connecticut, 152,000 Black and Latino children live in households with poverty level. As a result of COVID-19 pandemic, as many as 25 million adults and 10 million children are food insecure. There's so many examples across Connecticut where we try to address this and we're going to continue to address this. And we know that education can really lift up students out of poverty. I know firsthand that education can be the great equalizer. I think all of us know examples of that. This past year we've seen examples of that. The Department of Education, our job is to really support and provide resources and opportunities on how this could work. One of the things I'm most proud of in Connecticut most recently is the work we've done with interagency councils, right? Where we come together and we put our titles aside and we say, let's problem solve together. Let's help address the inequities that are happening in our state, working together. And that's something that all of us have participated in together. And our job now with the American Rescue Plan is to get our students back learning in person as quickly and safely as possible. That's why I'm so thrilled, because President Biden and Vice President Harris get it. They get it. They're committed to lifting students and children and families out of poverty, providing them educational opportunities that they need to thrive. So it's my honor to introduce Vice President Kamala Harris.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. And I want to thank the entire state of Connecticut for allowing him to serve as our Secretary of Education. Governor, you and the state, along with your senators and others, have really, as a state, been very progressive about what you have done and very courageous and innovative about what you all have done here in the state. And I speak on behalf of myself and the President. We are just very excited about Secretary Cardano and the work that he is going to do, especially at this moment in time. So thank you, Mr. Secretary. Governor, thank you for the warm welcome and for all the work you have done, and congratulations on all the success you have had. My buddies, the two senators, Senator Murphy, Senator Blumenthal, we have spent a lot of time together working on many issues in Washington, D.C., and it's so great to be with you. And again, I want to thank the state of Connecticut for sending you all to the United States Senate, because you truly are national leaders in addition to being leaders of this state. And the commissioners, thank you. I've heard so much about your work. I've been reading about your work, and I'm looking forward to this conversation. And essentially, we are having this conversation being very clear-eyed about the challenges and the crises that we are facing as a country, that in many ways have been accelerated by the pandemic. But I do believe the pandemic really has been an accelerator in also highlighting and making very clear the fractures and the fissures and the fault lines in our systems. And this is a moment then, as we look at where we are, it is a moment to leapfrog over what might have otherwise been incremental change, to actually fast forward and address some of the long-standing issues that have affected our children. The President and I, and we all, the senators, were very instrumental in getting the American Rescue passed. And one of the components of that plan that we are most excited about and will have generational impact is lifting half of America's children out of poverty. We are particularly also excited about what we are doing in terms of a substantial investment in childcare, understanding that this is an issue that is, yes, about our children, it is also about their parents, it is about working people, it is about our economy. The connections between childcare and all of these other systems are so direct. And we also about the investment that we're putting in our public schools, K through 12. Understanding that our educators, everyone in the educational ecosystem, including parents and students, deserve to have that infusion of resources to address the harm and the damage from the pandemic, but again, also a recent history of inadequately funding our public schools. And so this is some of the work that we are excited about. And here in Connecticut, you also have a leader in Rosa DeLauro, who I will see later, who I will say in this venue also has been a champion for years and years and years on many issues, including the child tax credit. And for the reason that because of the work she has done and all of you have done, I'm very excited to be here in Connecticut. When I think about the importance of a place like this, I think of it in the context of how I grew up. So I grew up one of two daughters of a mother who had an incredible passion to do the work that she did as a cancer researcher. My mother had two goals in her life: to raise her two daughters and end breast cancer. And often she would work very late nights, and sometimes on weekends. And when she did, we would walk 2 houses down to Mrs. Regina Shelton, who was a second mother to us. And in fact, Miss Shelton ran and it was her daycare center, and we lived on top of it in the apartment upstairs. And she was a second mother to us. She took care of us, she nurtured us, she loved us. That was a great blessing, so that my mother could do the work that eventually she did, that was to find certain discoveries on the issue of breast cancer. She could not have done that work without Miss Shelton. And that is a truth for all working parents. They need that kind of support to go on then and pursue their passion, whatever it may be, not to mention be able to provide for their family and its essential needs. So that's the lens through which I think about what we are doing. And then in the context of what we must do to not only support our parents, but support the infrastructure around them. So as we each present, I would ask that, in particular here in Connecticut, and for the educators, but everyone, let's talk a little bit about what you have seen over the course of the last year in terms of the resources that have been available and those that have not been available, and what you see as being some of the lingering effects that we need to address in Washington. I'm also interested in knowing how you are measuring and how you are anticipating what we must address in terms of the mental health impact of this last year, not to mention the mental health impact of poverty. Because let us be clear, poverty is trauma-inducing. And so how we are thinking about the entire ecosystem around issues like alleviating poverty and addressing the effects of poverty on our children. And with that, I'm going to return the mic to the Secretary, and let's begin our discussion.
That's inspiring. So we're going to have a great conversation. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to transition kind of to just a quick, we're going to give about a minute for each person to just introduce themselves. You know who you are, we're family here.